It's all over the news and it's impossible to miss. China has held its biggest ever demonstration of military forces in the air and seas around Taiwan, including firing ballistic missiles. The Chinese government claims Taiwan, a self-ruled island roughly 130 miles off China's southeastern coast, as a province of the People's Republic. It's been arming up for decades now and is constantly struggling to take it back, by force if necessary. Xi Jinping's Chinese Communist Party has threatened to attack Taiwan for more than 7 decades. Now uncertainties are growing among analysts, officials and investors that it might follow through over the next few years, potentially triggering a war with the US. Wondering what'll happen if China decides to invade Taiwan? By the end of this video, you're going to know how realistic it is for the People's Republic to sweep over the island nation and what to expect if it tries to do so. So let's rewind the clock a little. After the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949, which saw the emergence of the Communist faction as the unrivaled champion of mainland China, the losing Kuomintang government fled to the island of Taiwan. And thus, 2 self-proclaimed Chinese states emerged, the Taiwan-based Republic of China and the People's Republic of China, proclaimed by Mao Zedong in Beijing on the mainland. The latter regards Taiwan as a breakaway province. In 1950, Taiwan became an ally of the United States, which was at the time at war with Communist China in the Korean Peninsula. But from the 1970s and onwards, nations began switching their formal ties with the ROC to Beijing, and today, fewer than 15 world governments recognize the Republic of China or Taiwan as a country. China regularly points to this history to say that Taiwan was formerly a Chinese province, but the Taiwanese too are loyal to their history lessons. They rightfully claim that they were never a part of the modern Chinese state. China has yet again launched its ultimate military drills around Taiwan, firing ballistic missiles and deploying dozens of fighter jets and warships in response to a visit to the self-ruled island by US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, to remind the world that China still plans to annex Taiwan someday, whether peacefully or by force, no matter what the cost. By the way, want to stay updated about China and the US economy? Then give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It helps me to grow the channel and bring you the best content about investing. So let's cut to the chase. Barrages of missiles rained down in the waters around Taiwan. Must have been a harrowing sight. Long-range rockets streaked into the sky. The Chinese state television showed fighter jets and warships entering the Taiwan Strait as the military began an unprecedented series of live-fire drills encircling the island. Major General Meng Jianqing of the National Defense University in Beijing commented that although this is an exercise similar to actual combat, it can at any time turn into real combat. Today, the People's Liberation Army has progressed to the point where a campaign to seize Taiwan seems more and more plausible. And yet, even specialists and officials who supervise China's military for a living disagree over how ready those forces are to invade and conquer Taiwan and how inclined Xi would be to take the momentous gamble exclusively after Russia's troubled war in Ukraine. As countries around the world grow increasingly concerned about the tensions across the Taiwan Strait, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu has said that China has been revealing some of its strategies for a future invasion of Taiwan. He also warned that Beijing's efforts to modify the status quo across the Taiwan Strait could be undermining, stimulating, and quite dangerous. The conflict between the US and China over Taiwan is less improbable than it once was. China's commotion over House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's potential visit to the island has made this abundantly clear. Since the provocative trip to Taiwan by US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in early August, China has escalated its military threat against the democratic island. Experts claim that China was trying to use Pelosi's visit as an excuse to rationalize its military threats against Taiwan. According to analysts, Beijing wants to use the military exercises to shake Taiwan's confidence in the basis of its economic and political survival. The potential for an effectual blockade threatens the air and shipping routes that support its central role in the global technology supply chains. China also wants to raise questions regarding the will and capacity of the US to help defend the island against Chinese aggression. President Biden has asserted that the US would defend Taiwan against a Chinese attack in what was the third occurrence of him assuring military support to the island in less than a year. Despite the saber-rattling, China and Taiwan have many reasons to prevent a war. Well, the usual stuff about how a war could kill tens of thousands, devastate their economies, and potentially lead to a nuclear conflict with the US and its allies. The overwhelming consensus remains that Beijing will continue efforts to control Taiwan through military threats, diplomatic isolation, and economic incentives. Equities in Taiwan have recently hit record highs, but several forces may push them towards action. President Xi Jinping's wish to cement his legacy by gaining lost territory, falling support among Taiwan's public for any union with China, the rise of pro-independence forces in Taipei, and the US's increasingly deteriorating relationship with Beijing on everything from Hong Kong to COVID-19 to cutting-edge technology. But why should this matter to you? I mean, besides the possibility of conflict between the US and China. Well, as it turns out, there are several reasons why you should be praying for the situation to cool down. It's no news that Taiwan is a major manufacturing center for US-based companies, and China happens to be the biggest trade partner of the USA. War is bad for business, not just for all involved, but for the rest of the world too. You see, the global economies are meshed together, and an economic strain between China and the USA will definitely spill over to other countries too. A full-on war between the US and China would probably cause more damage to the world economy and global markets than any military confrontation since World War II. Unlike Russia or Ukraine, China's powerhouse manufacturing division is deeply associated with economies throughout the world, including the US and Europe. On top of that, seas around China and Taiwan are some of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Most foreign and US investors hold around 3.5% of China's equity in bond markets, so any small percentage change caused by this conflict can result in a loss amounting to billions of dollars. US trade with China is almost $656 billion a year, including imports of consumer products in every American home and fragments of many goods assembled in the US. Meanwhile, the US's trade with Taiwan stands at $114 billion, including trade of some of the world's most innovative semiconductors. China is also one of the biggest clients of the US Treasury securities, implying that if in any way China is unable to afford to purchase these instruments, the US will have to increase the prices and will be forced to reach out to other countries to stabilize its own economy. In the backdrop of COVID-19, the US can't manage to elevate the interest rates as the country is already struggling with inflation like the rest of the world. So the trade and economic impacts of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could easily surpass those of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the exposure of the US economy to China and Taiwan is far greater, not only in trade volumes but also in the value that the two countries add to the US's final demand. We can only hope that there isn't any impending economic shutdown, as the way China and the US are entangled, the US economy will encounter a lot of backlashes if anything happens to the Chinese economy. I think we can safely say that China won't be able to pick itself back up anytime soon, but the US won't have it easy either. Do you think China will invade Taiwan? Write invasion in the comments below if you think so. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch our previous video on why China's economy is collapsing. And don't forget to click that subscribe button. I make videos like this every week where I uncover the secrets of money and markets. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next upload.